Right, first time you open SketchUp, you'll go through a series of prompts that'll ask you for some preferences. They're not shown here because I've opened it before, but basically you want to make sure that under preferences, under template, you want to make sure that you've chosen woodworking inches. That sets a lot of things up for you. Makes the drawing a little bit easier. So make sure that's set to woodworking inches. Next thing you want to do is make sure that you've gone into model info. You're going to change 130 or 1/64th to 1/32. There's no need to have things accurate to 1/32 of an inch. You can check dimensions. Basically, just closed arrow is a good thing for us to use. None of this other stuff is really applicable right now. Alright, once that's done, you want to go ahead and save it to a location, give it a file name. For right now, we're just going to call it test. And you'll notice that the name or the file is up here at the top. Next, you want to go in and put guidelines. So you click on your guideline tool. Alright, set up guidelines. And just to back up for a second, the way you get these toolbars set up this way, you want to go into toolbars and make sure you have construction, getting started, large tool set, layers, section, and standard chosen. And initially they're going to populate over here, but if you'll grab this top bar, you can drag them up top if you want, or leave them over on the side. They're just as easy to get over here to the left. I like to have them up top, just a preference. Next thing I'm going to do is I need to set up my outermost limits for my project. So let's say I got to build a certain piece and it can't be more than 48 inches wide by 24 inches deep. So I get my guideline tool, click on it, drag here. Notice down in this bottom right hand corner, this number starts to move as soon as I click on that line and start dragging it out here. I type in 48, hit enter, and it will snap it to 48 inches. Okay, I grabbed the dimension tool, just put a dimension on. I'll do the same thing for my green axis. Type in 24, hit enter, and that has snapped exactly to 24 inches. Whoop. Alright, I didn't want to do that, so just go back up here, hit the blue arrow, go to 24. I can do the same thing with vertical pieces or vertical guidelines. And notice the snap to functions on here. This program is very intuitive. You can probably hear Roxy making noise over here. It'll snap to that line in the back, so that's automatically 24. Notice in the bottom right hand corner it says 24 inches. You click right there, you're in good shape. Now let's say I need this piece to be 36 inches. Notice if I go over here, I get a red arrow. That's on my red axis. I need this to be vertical, so I want a blue axis when I pull this up. Sometimes it's not cooperating with you if it keeps wanting to give you the red one. Click on your mouse wheel button and move up. When you click on your mouse wheel button, notice how that changes. Then you move up and notice how it changes my elevation angle. And sometimes this will help. So you can go back in here and grab this. That's my reference line. I drag it up. Again, I type in 36. It pops a line at 36 inches up from there. Okay. Now, instead, I'm not going to draw all these. I could do the same thing here. Red axis, come over a little bit, let go of my mouse, type in 48, and it puts another line there. So basically, I'm going to create a box here for my project. One other thing you need to do, and you can do this before you set up all your grid lines, But just type in, make a rectangle. We're going to make this a 10 by 10 just to act as a floor. So I'll type in 120. Again, we're in inches. So if you look at the bottom right hand corner, I type in 120 inches, comma, 120. Alright. I have to add a little bit of thickness to this floor. I'm just going to do 4 inches and move down. Now I need this floor to come out here. I'm going to do another 120, enter. I'm clicking my push pull tool. I'll show you more of this in just a minute. But I click on that surface. Notice how it highlights. Click on that surface, drag it out, 120. Now I use my scroll wheel to back out. Don't push down on it, just roll it. Roll it backwards and it moves you in and out. If I click down on it, that changes my orientation. Okay. Now one thing I'll stress a lot is you've drawn this object. The computer thinks of it as a 6-sided object plus the lines that are involved. What I need to do is tell the computer I want all these things to be grouped together. So I need to triple click until I get all sides highlighted. Then I'm going to right click, go up to make group. I could use make component if I'm doing multiple pieces, but we'll get to that later. We're going to make a group, and now when I go click on it, say I wanted to move it, I can move the whole piece around. Okay, let me show you what happens if you don't do that. So if you don't do that and you come in here and you say, well, I want to move this around, notice what's happening. It only grabs that top part because we haven't told the computer that it needs to be part of that, that needs to be grouped together. Alright, so triple click, right click, make group. You'll do that a lot when you're making a drawing. And that's all I'm going to do right here. This is just kind of initially getting set up. I'm going to open up the Tack trunk box here to finish up with this little tutorial. Alright, now in my computer I have saved everything under customer folders. Alright, now some of the things I've included in the email I sent to you. Wall tack, trunk with color. I sent all these things to you. This is the one you want to open. Now make sure you got Sketchup installed on your computer. I'm pretty sure I put it on there. So you start using SketchUp. Now notice I've gotten a couple different. I have a couple of different boxes that I've made here. I didn't redraw all of these. If you hold down your left click button and drag up, alright, it'll highlight everything. Alright, and then I just take this, my move tool, click on the bottom, hit control, and I'll make a copy. But we'll get to that in a second. One thing I didn't do here is make a floor. So why don't we go ahead and make a floor after I draw my guidelines. Go to my guideline tool, put my guidelines on the axis lines. Alright, let's do 120, comma 120. Go to my push pull. That's how you make a rectangle. Any three-dimensional, you start with two-dimensional, then you use your push pull tool, and we'll go 4 inches down. Now I don't want to group this yet because I'm going to push pull these other sides, so I don't want to tell the computer quite yet that I want it to group it all together. So I'll come out 120 there, highlight that, come out 120 there. Alright, now I want to tell the computer, hey, look at this thing as a big rectangle. So I go to make group. Alright, so how do we start out drawing this thing? Well, notice that my overall dimensions are 32 inches wide. Alright, 32 inches wide, 20 inches deep, and 20 inches tall. That's the outermost part of the project. Do not start drawing these inside pieces here, like this piece right here. Don't start drawing any of this until you set your outermost parameters. Work outside, then go inside 90% of the time. because that has to include all these trim pieces that I'm putting around. This is going to be built out of plywood mainly, and we're going to use basically some thick edge banding. We're going to put a skirt around the bottom. So I'm going to take this piece. I'm going to take this piece. Let me hide this for a second. I'm going to choose the floor. I'm going to hide it for right now. And I'm going to group all this together. You can group as much stuff as you want, but I want to move it out of the way just a little bit. Notice it's taking my guidelines with me. I'll show you how to fix that. Alright, if I get to a point I don't like my guidelines, I can go to Edit, Delete Guides, and it takes them all away. Alright, and I can pop them back in there if I want to. It seems like once you get started you don't have to go back in there and put the guidelines on the axis, but we're going to. Now I want my floor to show back up, so I'm going to go back to Edit, go to Unhide. I could do last because that's the only thing I want to come back up, or I could do all and everything I've hidden would show up. Alright, so guidelines 32, type in 32. Depth needs to be 20, so I go back to 20, and my height needed to be 20 inches as well. So I'm going to go up, type in 20. I'll go here, go up 20. Alright, if I want to, I can grab this bottom line and see how it snaps to. It gets a little confusing when you start making a boundary box, but once you get, you just got to bear with it. Once you get going, it really helps you out. If you're going to get the blue, see it's not wanting to give me the blue out. There it goes. So I'm going to go up 20. Alright, now that's giving me a little box in here, if you can see that. I know the guidelines go on forever, but if you notice we got a little box in here. I can finish it off by doing this. I don't have to. Just connect my corners to help you see a little better. Alright. Now for some reason that went all into infinity. Alright, so what I need to do is I'm gonna start drawing these little pieces down here. The skirt. Alright, I'm not going to draw the entire box. I'm going to give you enough to make you dangerous. A couple ways you can do this. Again, always keep in mind we're starting with a two-dimensional object, and then we're going to work out. Now look, when I click my rectangle tool and I move, notice I clicked in that corner and I moved down. Look at your bottom right hand corner. It's always the question is, well, which dimension comes first? Is it the width or the length? In Google, it'll throw both different arrangements to you. But I can look here. The skinny dimension is the first number. The higher dimension is the second number, the 20 inches that you see there right now. So what I want to do is make this a 3/4 inch piece by 3.5 inches tall. So I'm going to do 0.75, comma, space, 3.5. Scratch that. Well, we could do it that way. Let's just do it this way better. I like this way better. I put the wrong number in. I want this to be 3/4 of an inch this way, and I want it to be 20 inches long. So what I'm going to do is type in 0.75 comma 20. That's what I want. Now I go to my push-pull tool, and notice when I highlight it changes color. I'm going to click on that surface, get it moving, and type in 3.5. Okay, and that's how I make one of my sides. Alright, now I've just made a boo-boo. So what I want to do, because notice I want this side piece to fit inside, where when you look at the trunk you see a complete board. So what I need to do is I can either back up, right, or I can highlight the whole thing and just hit delete. I'm going to back up. Alright, so what I really need to work on first is going to be my front side. So let's do that. So let's make a rectangle here. That's going to be 32. So 32 is my front number. My first number should be 32, comma, space, 0.75, enter. Push pull. Go up 3.5. Snap it. Now remember, you got to do this every time. Go back, triple click, make sure all sides are chosen. Right click on the object. I'm going to do make a component just so I can show you what components do. We'll put front, back, skirt. Okay. Now, the copy tool, I'm going to grab this move tool, and we use that as copy as well. I'm going to grab this back corner. I'm going to move it right over here because it's going to be an identical piece on the back. So I click on there, click, it starts to move. Hit Control. Notice it duplicates it for me, and I can zoom in over there if I want. It snaps to that point I set up earlier. I click there. I didn't have to redraw anything. Okay. So now I just work on my side to do the same thing here. Gonna put, that's going to be 18.5. So I'll do 18.5, comma, 0.75, push pull. Now instead of having to type in 3.5 over here in the bottom right hand corner, watch what this does. I can come up here to this line because that's where I want it to be. Notice how it snaps to it. Once it snaps, I'm done. Click on it, go back in, make component. I'm going to put left, right, skirt. Again, I'm going to move this over. I'm going to grab this in, hit Control. After it starts moving, boom. Now, what's the beauty in making these components versus groups? Notice, let's say the customer calls and says they don't want it to be 32 inches wide. I think that's what we have. Let's say they want it to be 30 inches wide. Well, it's not so bad. I only have 2 of these pieces I have to shorten up. But what if you had, what if you were drawing a framed wall, and you didn't have to want to go in and redraw all of them. So I'm going to click my choose tool. I'm going to click. I'm going to keep clicking. Remember, it's a group, so I got to keep clicking until I get that surface that I want. Go to my push pull. Now watch what happens to that one over here on the right hand side. See, it's highlighted too. I'm going to push in, get it moving. I'm going to do 2 inches that way because we got to take 2 inches off of 32. And notice that the other one moved as well. So I only had to do that one time. Now I have to adjust this piece. I just want to move it. So we're done. My dimensions changed automatically as well. Okay. But we need 32, so I'm going to back out all that. Alright. So that's how we draw the skirt. Now, I'm going to move over here and show you. I've blown up the box here on the file that I gave you. Here's the bottom. Here are the front and back panels, the sides. Again, we're just drawing 2 dimensions, and then we're extruding up using our push-pull tool. Now, the dimension tool, you can find whatever you need. You go to your dimension tool, like how big are these panels? Click on one side, come down. Those are 17 by 16. So you got to draw 17 by 16 panels for that. These are, sometimes you need to zoom in and make sure you got the right corner. Okay, those are 30.5. by 16. That makes sense because it matches the height of that. Alright. Just like the skirt on the bottom, notice how we did the top. Okay. Notice when you're zooming in sometimes, if you're out here in space, I'm trying to zoom in, it's going real slow. Actually put the cursor on the object and you'll move faster. Okay. The lid's drawn very similar to the way I just showed you. This box is set up the same way. So probably 80% of this you can draw with what I just showed you how to do, making this thing right here. Okay. And basically the way I want this to sit down in there, so I just said, well, I'll come up, I think we came up 1.5 inches. I'm not real sure. But if you want to find out, go back to select. Let's get rid of the floor. Let's look inside of this thing here. Alright, select the floor, hide it, change your orientation. Now go up underneath, take your dimension tool, and it looks like it's 1.5. If you can't really see the numbers, you can always zoom in, but you can right click on that, text position, and do outside start. That's not what we want because it went up in the thing. Text position, outside end, and it puts it outside for you so you can see it. So that's 1.5 inches. And that should get you going there. I'm going to go back, edit, unhide, last or all. Okay. Again, if I don't like, I want to start over with my guides. I can delete all guides. I have an erase tool. I'm going to click that. I can click on individual things. I can double click them. But again, if I left click and drag across them, it'll automatically wipe them out. Okay. So those are gone. That's gone. Get rid of that. And it'll do the same thing with objects too. And get rid of that. Alright. Any questions? I want you to give this a shot. You're going to have to go in here and draw some dimensions on pieces to figure out how they go in there. But this will show you how it's put together. Alright. If you need to move a piece or pieces, okay, it's a group. Let's just click until we get what we want. Let's say I want to remove this, and this side panel, and these 2 pieces of trim. Well, notice they're not all grouped together. So I click till I get inside. I want that piece, and I'm going to hit Control. And I'm going to click that panel. I'm going to click that piece. I'm holding Control down, and that piece. What if I accidentally hit that piece and I didn't want it? I hit Shift and click that, and it takes it off. Okay, Control to add it. If I hit Control again, it's not going to do anything. Hit Shift, it takes it away. So now what I can do is grab anywhere on this point, and I want to stay on the same plane. Notice it's pulling all those pieces out. This is how I made the blow up part of the project. Okay, and you could type in, stay on that red axis, and you could type in 24 or whatnot. It doesn't matter. We're going to put it all back anyway. But just remember where you grabbed it. Now what this does is I can go in here and say, okay, so that's 16 inches, or what if I wanted to check the distance from here to there. So I can use my guideline tool as well. See, it jumps to, look over in the bottom right hand corner, it tells you what that distance is. If you don't want to do dimensions, it'll do from there over to there is 3/4. You could go pop here to here. It's 29 3/4 on the inside. You know, how far down are these shelf strips with 3.5, so on and so forth. Okay. Last little thing is how did I make this? How did I make this thing move? Let me get these pieces back. So what we want to do is we got to get these back. Now if I just click on that, notice if I go over here and grab my tool and I just click on that, it's only going to move that one piece. I've got to select them all again. So I'm going to click that, Control, Control, Control. I got to grab it in the same spot. It'll snap to, boom, they're back in place. Now I'll hit Save. Now how do I get this piece to move? Okay, so I've got a rotation tool. Okay, Notice how it goes from red, then it jumps here, it goes to blue. Sometimes it'll go to green if I go back here. Once I get it on the plane I want it on the red plane, I hold shift. It doesn't matter where I go. It's going to stay red. So I'll go down here to this little pivot point. I click on that. I go up to this edge. Move it down till it snaps. Let me move over here to a point. So it snaps there. I'm done. Now it's closed. Okay. And I do the opposite to open it up. Say I want to open it up 45 degrees. So I hit 45. Now oddly enough, you can also use this to copy as well. I get it moving, hit control, notice it made another one for me. Okay, and I could snap that there if I wanted to, but I don't need to in this picture. So I'm going to save all that. Alright, and that should be enough. We'll get into color and stuff later. But what this will help you do, this will actually help you build it, because in your mind you know how things are going to be pieced together. And as far as the process of building this, get all your panels cut out first. You can make your parts list based off of this. Get your panels cut out, get your frame pieces cut out. These the drawer pieces, and it's just a matter of starting to put stuff together.